Hi Bobcats, this is Miss Lee, and in this lesson we're going to learn how to convert between decimals and percent. Please make sure that you have your notes and that you are filling them out and working all of the examples. Okay, how to change a decimal to a percent. Before we actually get into how to do that, let me ask you this. We know that percent is out of 100. We've talked about it a lot. So if we have a decimal and we want to change it to a percent, then we need to multiply it by 100, make it to be out of 100. So if I have 1 times 100, what do we get? We get 100. So I started off with a number in the ones place, and how many place values did I increase? I increased 2 place values. I increased tens to the hundreds. If I have 32 and I multiply that by 100, what do I get? Right, 3,200. So 32 had 2 decimal places, or not decimal, I'm sorry, 2 place values. And how many did I increase by? I increased by 2 place values. So whenever you're multiplying by 100, it doesn't matter the number, but when you multiply by 100, you're increasing by 2 place values. Your number is getting larger by 2 place values. And that's what is happening when we're changing decimals to percents. We need to increase it by 2 place values because we need to multiply it by 100. So for our first example, we have 342 thousandths. We need to multiply that by 100 to turn it into a percent. And instead of trying to figure it out or doing the math off to the side, there's a quick little technique or shortcut that we use. And that is, we just move the decimal point 2 places to the right. It's what we call Dr. Pepper or DP. The D stands for decimal, the P stands for percent. When we're going from decimal to percent, we're going to move 2 places, 1 for each letter. And the direction we're going from the D to the P is we're going to the right. So we're moving 2 places to the right. So all you do is find your decimal point. Here it is. And you're going to move 1 place to the right, which moves the decimal between the 3 and the 4. And then move a 2nd place to the right. And draw your arrow so that you know the direction you're moving. Where your arrow lands is where the new decimal point goes. So this now becomes 34 and 2/10, and add your percent symbol. So moving the decimal point 2 places to the right is the same as multiplying by 100. And whenever we're changing a decimal to a percent, that's what we want to do. Let's look at the next example, 400ths. Here's the decimal point. We're going to move it 1, 2 places to the right. And it becomes 4 decimal percent. Now, you don't need to write this decimal point here since our number turned into a whole number. You can just write it as 4%. Okay, let me put this one up a little bit higher. 2 and 5/10. Again, decimal to percent, we're going to move 2 places to the right. Start at your decimal point right here. Here's 1 place, here's 2 places, and my new decimal goes right here. I have an empty hole. So what do we always put in the empty holes? Right, zeros. We annex zeros. So it becomes 250. Since that's a whole number, I'm going to drop that last decimal and add my percent symbol. The next one, 27.8. Again, you're always going to start at the decimal point and move 1, 2 places to the right. My new decimal goes here. I now have a hole that I have to annex a 0, and I get 2,780%. It's really easy. This Dr. Pepper DP with the 2 letters, it reminds you that you need to move 2 places, and just depending on the conversion you're doing, in this case decimal to percent, we're going from the D to the P, we're going to the right, we move it to the right. Now there is another example that I want to do. What if I had 15? And I want to write 15 as a percent. Well, there's no decimal. You're always going to move that decimal point. That decimal is invisible because we usually don't write decimal points with whole numbers. So just go ahead and put in your decimal point. Once it's there, then you can move it 1, 2 places to the right. My new decimal goes here. I have 2 holes this time, so I put zeros in both holes, and you get 1500%. That's another example you can put in there. Okay, now let's try percent to decimal. It's the same thing, except for this time, instead of multiplying by 100 to change it to a percent, we've already done that, and we want to go backwards and change it back to a decimal, so we want to divide by 100. Or, using your DP, instead of moving 2 places to the right, you're going to move 2 places to the left. So you can move the decimal point 2 places to the left. Let's try it. 30%. Okay, it's not the percent symbol you're moving, it's the decimal point that you're moving. So our decimal point is invisible because this is a whole percent, which means it's going to go at the end. So we're going to place our decimal point, and then we're going to move it 2 places to the left. 1, 2. So our new decimal will now go in front of the 3. So its decimal value, it's 30 hundredths. Or if you wanted to drop this last 0 and write it as 3/10, that's fine. One of the things I do want to say is please make your decimal points nice and big so that we can see them. All right, 12.5%. This number already has the decimal point, so we're just going to move it 2 places to the left. Draw your little loopies and make sure you have the arrow to show the direction you're moving. The new decimal goes right where my arrow is at. So it's going to be new decimal, 1, 2, 5, 125 thousandths. And if you want to put a 0 in the ones place, you can. Okay, 8% is a whole percent. That means my invisible decimal point is at the end. So let's go ahead and move it 1, 2 places to the left. It's going to leave me a hole, so I have to annex a 0. Where my arrow's at is my new decimal. So I get 8 hundredths. And you can put a 0 in the ones place. 124%. It's a whole percent, so that invisible decimal is at the end. We're going to move it 1, 2 places to the left, which means my new decimal is going to be between the 1 and the 2. So 1 and 24 hundredths. All right, we have 4 practice problems. I would like for you to go ahead and pause the video, change these percents to decimals, and come back and check your answer. Okay, let's see how you did. 59 and 2/10%. Did you get 592 thousandths? Hopefully so. All you had to do was take that decimal point and move it 1, 2 places to the left. 157%. As a decimal, did you get 1 and 57 hundredths? Remember, in a whole number, the decimal point is invisible. So you make it visible, and then you can move it 1, 2 places to the left. 64%. Did you get 64 hundredths? And the last one, 62 hundredths percent. Let's see how many of you got this one right. Wait for it. Did you get 62 10,000ths? Hopefully so. The decimal point was already there, so all you had to do was do your DP, percent to decimal, move it to the right 2 places. 1, 2 places, the new decimal point, we have a hole, annex a 0. And that's all there is to converting percents and decimals. Just remember to use your DP, your Dr. Pepper. Good job, Bobcats.